Hey there, liars. We're on to you.
Not really.
Yeah. We're going to be talking about really introducing a series that we're going to be next couple episodes talking about lying.
True lies.
True lies.
Do
Yes.
it. Wait.
You're fired.
Say,
Favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movie and scene right there. I was like, oh my goodness. Anyways. But today we're going to be getting into just defining some of the terms, objective truth, lies. I remember share my story about when I brought up objective truth in grad school and it turned into a big trigger party. That would be fun.
Everybody's triggered.
But then even getting into like what happens in our bodies when we lie. I don't think we were created for it.
Yes. Yeah. And that's actually the conclusion that we are supporting here today. And it is that we are made by truth and for truth. And when we don't live in agreement with that, it shows up in our bodies, whether we like it or not.
So step one to becoming a human lie detector starts in this episode. We'll see you in there. I have a question for you folks. When a tree falls in the woods, does it make a sound? If you don't know the answer to that question, you need to listen into this podcast here because we're going to be talking a whole lot about lies. Did you know that every time that you lie, something happens in your body? Our bodies resist it, right? We feel it in our palms. We feel it in our dry mouths. There's something in the impact that has the phenomenology, right? The phenomenon that we experience when we lie or we abstain from the truth here, where it just, there's something to consider there. And that's what we're going to be getting in here today.
Yeah. Yeah. So we are going to be defining some terms like what is truth, what are lies, and also the effects. And I have a little puppy actually climbing up me right now.
There she is. Everybody meet little Gertrude. We call her Rudy.
But really the effects that lies have on a person's body. And really the conclusion that we want to make in this particular podcast, and this is the beginning of a series, a podcast on lies and truth. We could call it True Lies if you happen to be.
You're fired.
Yes. I was going to say, is that an Arnold movie? I don't even know.
Absolutely. It's one of the best Arnold movies.
Yes. Which I'm like, what a great, actually, we should call this entire series True Lies.
True Lies.
Anyway, so we're going to be talking about all of that and the effect that it has on your body. And really the conclusion that we are trying to make here in this podcast is that we are made by truth and for truth. And that's it, actually. Yeah.
So let's talk about, we always love defining our terms in the beginning here. So first of all, we want to define objective truth. I remember when I was in grad school, went to the University of Maryland. And
no,
it was a very much I'd say a left-leaning liberal arts department that I was in. I was getting my master's in American history. And I remember, this is like fresh out of like learning about theology of the body and phenomenology and all of and hearing about objective truth. I remember having a discussion with my group of peers on some stupid book we were reading about gender studies and saying this term objective truth. And I was just saying it like
everybody knows it.
Everybody knows objective truth. The visceral reaction to that word, like somebody literally said, I actually feel triggered by that term objective truth that you just used that.
Wow.
And it was like, whoa, what is going on? Like, I was just like, well, what do we do instead? I was just very naive.
Why do we even talk about truth?
Relativism and or just the thought that what is could be anything else.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So when we talk about objective truth, Erin, what are we talking about?
It is okay. So fancy words, and then I'll laicize it, if you will.
Cool.
Okay. So it's the conformity of the intellect. So of what you think. It's a conformity of the intellect with what the thing perceived actually is. So it's basically having the thoughts that you think in your brain aligned with reality.
Interesting. That's also a good definition for mental health. Ah, interesting, right? We define health based on our ability to identify and conform our thoughts to truth, to reality.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Right. And this is so important. I'm glad that you started out with that example, because truth still, if not, I mean, the reaction is probably even worse now, but like because that was about 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But truth is under attack.
Mm-hmm.
And for us to be able to become like lie detectors or truth detectors, we
Mm-hmm.
first need to know what truth is. And we need to know there's different types of truth. And also, I don't know, like we don't need to get into all the different types of truth, but objective truth is really, really helpful to know. And also moral truth, you know, especially if you're Catholic and you're like, I like kind of doing God's word and
yeah. So when we think of what truth is and we think of everything that exists, it's sharing in the actual existence of God, right? It has to come from somewhere, right? And so if God is, right, we believe that God isn't something that we create in our minds, but he's existence itself, right? And even that word, even that can't quite capture God, because we can't have words that actually encapsulate God. So we're kind of looking at a very blurry mirror as we're describing God with this, and we're grasping at things that are well beyond our human capacities. But we can say that our very existence comes from somewhere, right? And we call that somewhere someone, and it's God. And so for us to say that we can conceive of what something is different from what it is.
Yep.
Right. That makes ourselves God in a sense.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So
okay.
that's another issue here.
Which is a lie.
And another thing about objective truth is that truth is truth. No matter, regardless of your opinion, your interpretation of it, one's beliefs or feelings about it, it is independent of the subject.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'll give you an example. Water boils at 100 degrees Celsius at sea level. This is objectively true, regardless of somebody's interpretation of it. When somebody has an interpretation of it or emotional reaction, this is what we call the subjective experience. Okay. We are not minimizing that. Everybody has their own subjective experience. Everybody has their own way of interpreting things.
Yes. We can say that it's objectively true that we each have a subjective experience.
Right.
Yes. And John Paul II says that's valid. That's valid. That's a valid source of data that we need to take into consideration to really understand and contemplate what is true, good, and beautiful.
Yeah. Yes. So we are not conflating the two either. And that's where I think in the world of relativism, in the world of emotional reasoning, in that world that we all live in, is people do conflate the two. Well, this is my truth and this is, you know, this is not your truth or whatever. It's like, no, you're using the word truth wrong.
Okay. This
is my experience and this is your experience.
Okay, Erin, we've talked to a couple of things. We've took a little pause to put our puppy outside. Right? She was chewing on wires and that's not good. So, Erin, back to this, we've had this little discussion on truth. Why is this important?
Gosh, there's so many reasons why. Well, I had already mentioned we live in a relativistic world. And so to be able to know what is true and what is not true is actually very helpful. And to even know those distinctions between truth and a subjective experience, really helpful. It's also very helpful to know as a mindset coach, because like we said before, being aligned with truth, having our intellect and the thoughts that we think being aligned with truth actually creates more mental health.
Right.
So that's very helpful.
And that's even where we kind of took Aquinas and cognitive behavioral therapy, that approach. Cognitive behavioral therapy is just like, you can kind of think thoughts that actually help you to feel better, right? But if those thoughts help you feel better, but they're not aligned with truth, it's really not helping the person grow into the fullness of who they are, right? So we need to bring in the objective truth and understanding what the intellect that we're trying to help people to perfect and get reordered, right?
Yes.
Understanding what that is for so that it can really be in service to the true goodness of the person.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we talk about you want to get into lies now?
No.
No.
I want to do one more thing. I want to say, here's another reason why it's really good to know what is true. It helps with spiritual warfare. Because, and we are going to get into this, because lies are the actual language of the enemy. Okay. We empower the liar, the father of lies, when we believe a lie. And so we are less likely to believe a lie if we know what is true. It's just like the people who do the counterfeit money, right? Like they study real money so then they can actually, and they have a lot of experience with real money so that when something that is not real money is before them, they can discern that.
Right.
So this is the same thing.
Yes. So steeping ourselves in the Word of God, steeping ourselves in good media, good truth, right? It can have that positive effect. Also, having the news on in the background all day long can have and also draining, and you can steep in whatever it is the news is putting out, which has often got a bit of a spin on it, which is another way of saying a lie or a mistruth.
Yes.
So, okay. Great. Where are we going next, Erin?
Okay. So, lies. Let's define a lie. Okay. A lie is, and this is really fascinating because it aligns with objective truth.
Yes.
So if somebody does not believe in objective truth, they also cannot believe in a lie.
Interesting.
So they can't be upset if somebody lies to them. I'm doing air quotes there because they don't technically believe a lie. All right. So a lie is anything that is partially or completely contradicts the truth. And when we say the truth, we mean aligned with reality. Okay. So anything that partially, even a little bit, or completely contradicts the truth, which is the reality of what is reality. Okay. There is another definition of the action of lying that does presuppose some culpability,
some knowledge,
some knowledge that you are lying,
or malintention.
Yeah. Our stance on this is sometimes people know, like think of it as as a spectrum. Sometimes people know, and then sometimes people don't. So there's like a long spectrum of lies between error in thinking, like it's just you were misinformed, and
I'm intentionally trying to deceive you.
A bold-faced lie. Yeah. Like so. I wanted to kind of give that caveat before I give this definition.
And I think that's important here when we talk about the culpability of lies, right? Because a lot of the time we work with clients and our clients are struggling because they're lying to themselves or they're believing lies, right? But they don't necessarily know they even think some of these thoughts are helpful, right? And so that's when we're coaching, we're helping people to really see the effects, the fruits of their beliefs, and also hold them under, just put them on trial and see if some of these things are really true or not. So there's a level, the culpability does adjust based on the level of knowledge, right? That the person has. Some people are doing it knowingly, but most of the time people are doing it to they feel justified because they want to stop feeling an emotion of shame or anger or frustration. And the lie is something that gives a little bit of gratification right out the gate for that. And so I just want to hold space for a little bit of compassion with this. Like, I don't think people say, I want to be a liar.
Yeah.
But people do want to feel better, and lies can give that immediate relief. But boy, oh boy, the after effects in the long term are terrible.
I mean, a really good question here, though, when you say that is like when somebody does believe a lie about themselves and then they operate out of that lie, technically, aren't they a liar? I don't want to put labels on people, but like, I know for me, if I found out, I'm like, oh, that makes me a liar. Because I'm like operating under this belief that is not true.
If that helps you to actually,
I think it would help me actually
shift a little bit here.
Yeah.
So and go for it. If that triggers you and you're just like, oh my gosh, and you just like go into a shame spiral, let's not do that. That's also not helpful.
Yes.
Here. But just know this, that even when we have no knowledge that what we're saying is a lie. All right. So we're complete ignorance. Ignorance does not give us a pass. We still feel the effects of believing and living from an objective lie.
Yes.
Okay. So that just happens, right? The culpability may be down at that point, but we'll still feel the effects. And that's by God's design. He wants us to be aligned with truth because that's what we're created for.
And we're back.
Yes. Take flipping 3.
This is the first time we're filming any podcast with our brand new puppy, and it's very interesting.
Here we are. Okay, back on track. All right. What's the other definition of the lie that you wanted to share here, babe?
Yes, it's lying means the misrepresentation of one or more facts in order to gain a benefit or harm another person. Once again, that kind of implies culpability, implies an act of the will, and it implies even malice. But there is a spectrum of that. So we will get into that in future episodes, actually, the different spectrum of lies and how sometimes it comes from just a misrepresentation of the truth all the way to a bold-faced lie. So we will get into that in the future, but let's get into why we believe that we are made for truth and by truth and the effects of it on our humanity.
Okay, take it away. You got it.
Okay. So that is the conclusion we're trying to make. We are made by truth, the person of truth. We are made by him and for it. And when we don't have truth, when our minds are not aligned with it, we are mentally ill and we are not aligned with truth and we lose peace and all that stuff. Okay. So what happens to the body?
When we lie, what happens to the body when we lie?
Well, if you are not a sociopath or a psychopath, there are a number of things that happen to your body when you lie. Okay, so you can look at this at yourself. You can look at this if you're talking to somebody else. You can use a lot of these measurements to gauge this, but this is actually physiologically what happens. Cognitive load increases.
Interesting.
So you have more things to think about because you got to keep your story straight. You can see this a lot with people who, I don't know, I'm a weirdo. I watch interrogation videos and I watch like body language experts and they're like, you can tell that this person has a lot of cognitive load, meaning they're like, I got to keep my story straight because it has been recorded in the past. And I told the cops this and I told my lawyer this. And so there's a lot that's happening inside their mind. There's number one, suppressing the truth. They are constructing and sustaining a believable falsehood. And then they're monitoring the listener's reaction too at the same time. So they're like, is this believable? Are you believing me? Hello. And then they're trying to keep that story consistent. And so really what this is happening even neurologically is it's activating the prefrontal cortex. Could you speak a little bit on prefrontal cortex?
Well, the prefrontal cortex is really the part of the brain. It's the newest part of the brain that really makes us distinct from the animal kingdom, right? One of the things. And so that's where a lot of our higher cognitive thinking actually takes place.
Decision
creative
making.
thinking, decision making. Yep. It gets activated up there.
Yes. So lying makes your brain work harder than usual. Okay.
Yeah, I remember. Actually, just last week I was hanging out with my buddy Wayne, and he was saying, you know what I just tell my kids? It's like, why don't you just tell the truth? It's just the easiest to remember. Right? It's just the easiest to remember. It's like,
that's so good.
Yeah.
I'm doing that.
You don't have to spend so much time.
I'm like, that only works,
about it.
but it does work probably better for phlegmatic children.
Well, yeah,
like, it's easy. I like easy.
Well, because it's hard to do, it actually gets into this next piece, which is you start to see these stress response triggers start to amp up.
Yeah.
Okay. And so there's the limbic system now is getting activated. There's more of that midbrain portion where we have the fight or flight. That's
because there's a threat.
Off. Or fight, flight, or freeze that's taking place. And it's really just like you're trying to avoid the feeling of shame and even the threat of being caught, found out, whatever the evil is that you're trying to avoid with the lie. Now that evil is in front of you. And so when we perceive there to be an evil that we're trying to avoid, right, that's where our limbic system was made, designed by God to kind of get us into that safe place, right? But in this case, right, we're actually creating more of the more of a threat ourselves.
Yeah. So this results in so that limbic system, it sends signals to activate the sympathetic nervous system, which results in increased heart rate. Okay. And that, I believe, is what polygraphs what they actually are testing.
I think you're right. Yep.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Increased heart rate, elevated blood pressure. So all of you nurses out there who have blood pressure, I don't know, those I don't know anything about nursing, but I know that you guys take blood pressure.
Yeah. Sweating. All right. Especially in the palms, right? Shallower, faster breathing, dry mouth, silent change in the body temperature. So all of a sudden you see your people kind of going, right? Those kind of clicking noises, right? That's indicative of the dry mouth, or you might even see the white kind of showing up here on their creases of their mouth here. And people are just trying to avoid the lie here as well. And so if they're feeling the stress, you might even start to see some of the self-soothing that's taking place, right? The adapting that's going on, the like caressing their arm, things like that.
Yeah. The guys that I watch from the behavioral panel, which is like one of my favorite YouTube channels, go subscribe right after this. But they're like 4 master body language guys who like taught the military, CIA, like everybody how to interrogate, how to all this stuff. They do their own rap sheet, so you go watch them. But they will always count blink rate. Blink rate is one of the things too. I believe that this is a stress response. You're blinking more. They actually, one of them usually looks at the breathing too. So it's like, has breathing like quickened, and is it shallower? And you can see if it's shallower because it's up here on the chest. And then gulping, actually, which I think comes from like that dry mouth. You're like constantly gulping.
Right. Okay. So the person's just trying to avoid this. And so we can look at these things, the heightened, all of these effects, and we say this isn't necessarily associated with like good wellness, right? People don't want to have high blood pressure, shallow breathing, all kinds of adverse effects can happen from this. Okay. So when you start to lie, literally your body goes into a stress response that is not, conducive to thriving.
Once again, aligned with our conclusion that we're made for truth and by truth. And we just do better. It's easier, like Wayne said. Okay. So number 3, another thing that happens is moral and emotional conflict. This is to all of our fellow Catholics out there. Woo woo. We feel actually morally compromised when we start to lie. Guilt activates areas in our anterior cingulate cortex and insula. I know that doesn't mean anything to you, but you get more Catholic guilt. That's what's happening. And what's actually happening in your brain are those words.
Okay. We don't know what it means, but
do you know what it is?
No, I have no idea what that means.
Okay. May cause discomfort, distraction, or attempts to justify the lie internally. This is another one that people will say, yeah, but I'm trying to protect them, or yeah, but like, is this even helpful right now? Yeah.
So we see this a lot in the area of abortion, right? And so it's hardwired in a human that, natural law, we're all subject to it. We all know that killing somebody is wrong. Okay. And so with abortion, now suddenly we have a new word for it. Right. And so there's a little bit of distancing that's going on. And in order to deal with the reality of what happens in abortion, where somebody dies, right? Intentionally, somebody dies, then we have to start saying, well, it's not really a life, right? And so we start to get into some of that justifying language to be able to fix the situation here, but it doesn't necessarily fix the situation because we're hardwired for that truth. And so this is kind of where we're, in order to morally justify the act or morally justify the belief, we have to really start even going down to like the premises of the beliefs here. Well, it's like, it's not murder because it's not a life.
Yeah.
It's not a person.
And that's why objective truth is so helpful. You got to know that first, and that moral truth, like those two. But it's certainly when you don't have that guiding you, objective and moral truth, you can kind of gather in these cognitive bias. These like cognitive groups that believe the same thing as you. Yeah.
A couple months ago, I was at a thing with Father Frank Bavone. I said, what in your years doing, and he's leads what Priest for Life. That was his apostolate. I said, what has been the most effective thing that you've found in communicating the realities of abortion? And he goes, it's controversial, but the pictures. the pictures of what it looks like. And I was like, even when I heard it, I was like, oh man, like, it's like, I get it, but it's like in my mind, it's so not pastoral in the approach. But he was just like, you can't deny when you see it. You can't deny it. Right. And so, like in order for us to continue to live a lie, we have to distance ourselves away from the reality of the pictures at times. Of like looking it right in the face. Yeah.
Yep. Yes. And I don't know, my mind started going to Pontius Pilate, who is like, what is truth?
He's looking truth right in the face.
And he's looking at the person of truth right in the face. And like when we don't have eyes to see truth, like, could we even convince people of what the truth is?
Yeah.
I mean, we have to train our coaches all the time to just be like, somebody has to be willing to actually know what the truth is to it.
Yeah. And even the way that we start to, like, even in our own lives, when we, if we're compromising truth and we don't want to stay in that stress response, right, where we have to defend our position, you'll notice that people start to congregate in people that just share that common belief, right?
Yeah.
Because now they're not necessarily being triggered by the truth, right?
Yeah.
And so you see this a lot in identity politics, where we get into our camps and we pick our news channels that we're going to listen to and what we're not going to listen to, and we have our like YouTube, and we just immerse ourselves in an echo chamber, right? Which there's some danger in that. There's a reason why the church isn't cloistered. It actually goes out on mission, and is the Lord forces us to even get out of the echo chamber and bring the gospel out there.
I don't know what that is.
Outside of, rather than just kind of staying in cloistering ourselves.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. What's next? All right.
Some of the other effects is, and this is, a lot of these are byproducts from like that interior stuff that's happening, right? Like the stress response, what was the other one? The stress response, the cognitive load. So these are byproducts of that. So voice and speech, your voice and speech changes. This is due to the muscular tension and the stress. So your pitch may rise, and this is why I'll get into this after, actually. Your pitch may rise, your voice may quiver, your speech may become faster, slower, or more fragmented. And then you're using more filler words like, well, like those words that are getting feedback from others too, and buying time.
Yeah. Like, are you buying time to create the narrative?
Yes. Right.
But also like nodding for approval and seeing if people are actually buying your story.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And if you're like a person who like loves body language, you're like, I'm going to go try this on somebody else. Okay. So this is what I wanted to make note of before. Understand what the person's baseline is before. So that person might just speak in a quiver-y voice, they might be a high pitched voice. So you have to like, understand that these show up in clusters. Right? It has to be more than one thing. And also you want to hold it up next to baseline. That is just like one of the principles. Yeah.
We're going to have a whole episode on actually evaluating somebody in front of you and like how you can actually look for those cues.
Yes. Okay. So another one is micro expressions and muscle tension. This is a lot like the voice and speech changes, but this is just on your face, Though a person tries to appear normal, involuntary leakage of emotion may occur. This made me think of, actually, we were just watching that Amy Bradley thing last night. On Netflix. There's
some like a murder
crime documentary.
Mystery. Yeah. We don't know what's going on.
And we both were listening to this one guy, and we both looked at each other after and we're like, he's lying. And like, we didn't. It's like you could tell there was adapters happening. They were adapting themselves. His voice didn't really change, but there was micro expressions happening on his face. This looks like flash expressions of fear, guilt, or discomfort. Eye blinking, like I was saying before, may increase. This is from the stress. Or it may decrease too, because there's some people who are like, I know that if there's lots of blinking, that means I'm lying. So then they do this weird psycho stare at you, and they're I'm really serious.
What's going on is like your body is like tightening down, like you're clamping down because the we're trying to hide any of the movements or the effects of our deception that's going on here. And so I love how the team will even talk about how they'll,
behavioral panel
team will talk about, they'll anchor down, they'll shove their hands under they'll sit on their hands, or they'll, or cover their mouth,
create a barrier. They'll put something in between the person.
Yeah.
But all right. I didn't finish with micro expressions. So facial muscles may tense, especially around the jaws or the eyes. The jaw or the eyes. And then lips may tighten or purse. There are like a bajillion micro expressions. There's so many books on them. So you can go if this is like really interesting to you. But once again, so amazing that our bodies are built to tell the truth, that even it shows up in these micro expressions that are like a tenth of a second long, and you can still pick up on it, and other people can pick up on it too.
Yes.
Which is wild.
Especially if you're high empathy. I remember even going back to the Heart Math Institute in Colorado, where they talked about the electromagnetic pulse that comes from the human heart. And it radiates out about 6 feet from where they are. And so think of that as like a signal, a frequency that's actually coming out. It's measurable. It's not, I say frequency, it's not
we
new
are
agey.
Electromagnetic.
There's an electromagnetic pulse that's going out. And just like a radio frequency carries a certain signal or communication to it, other hearts can actually, in the vicinity of that pulse, can pick up on it and start to, there's a communication that happens from the heart to the brain, which is fascinating here.
Yeah. Dr. Caroline Leaf, I was just listening to a talk by her yesterday, and she talks about, she studies electromagnetic, like what's going on in our brain and how it affects the rest of our body, but also that stuff. So if you guys want to look into that.
This is how your body starts to pick up on it before your brain really kind of understands. Sometimes our brain can kind of like gloss over, and like, because we'd rather not be lied to, and so we'd rather just ignore kind of the signals that our body's giving us. But we want you to like pay attention to those signals, because your body is not only designed to speak truth, but also to receive truth.
This is really interesting that you say, especially if you're more empathetic. I do believe that people who are more empathetic do pick up on that. I don't know if it's electromagnetic. I don't know if it's just you read people's faces like quicker than other people. But what's fascinating, I'm making a connection in my mind. Behavioral panel, those 4 men will say women are naturally better at this.
Interesting. And women are naturally more likely to have that strength of empathy.
Yes, right. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Okay. Final one, body language may become guarded. We were just talking about this. You can put blocks in the way. You can put barriers in the way. Some people do this with their hands. Some people, and it's not like they're sitting there with their hands like this and then they lie, but it's like that goes up after the lie happens, right?
Fig
that
leafing.
barrier.
Yes.
They fidget more. There's more adapting. Like they're like kind of self-soothing because like this is stressful, cognitive load. I'm like telling a lie. They touch their face, their neck. And I remember reading this. I don't know if this is actually technically true, but the reason why they touch their face, anybody who lies, why we touch our face is because when we were younger, we used to tell a lie and then like cover our mouth. So it's like your way of being like covering your mouth. Like, this is not true. It's almost like this. I don't know if that's true though, or if that's like an old wives' tale in the behavioral.
But even if it just falls into the self-soothing area,
yes, right.
Like that's, I get it.
But I do think it's an interesting question. I mean, like, why the face? It's like the place. It's the perpetrator.
Well, it's very fetal positioning too. It's like return to the womb. There's something that's soothing about that. That's kind of interesting. I could see that.
Yeah. And another thing to notice too is they may angle their body away slightly, or like I said, put an object between themselves and you, or you are putting an object between yourself and the other person. And I do think that this is really interesting. It's not so much like we're going on a witch hunt, we're going to find all the liars out there, but like to also apply this to ourselves. Like if you notice a stress response in yourself, And even just being like, am I believing a lie? Am I telling a lie? Or am I telling a lie that I'm believing? Right? So it could be something like that. You could apply a lot of these physiological responses to your own life. So you can go at it from that angle.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's it, guys. We just journey we went on. We talked about objective truth.
You were made for it.
You absolutely right. Health is when mental health is when we're aligning our perceptions with the reality of what is. We know that everything that exists gets its existence from God, who is existence himself. And our destiny is to be with God, with existence himself for all eternity. And so to the extent that we believe lies, we're rebelling against our very nature and the very nature that the very God who created us.
Well,
here.
I mean, we were made in his image and likeness, the Imago Dei. And like, he is truth. He's the one who like called himself truth.
Yes.
So like, yes, we are rebelling against our nature, our identity, the legacy, the heritage that he has given to us. We're rebelling against all of that. And so hopefully we convince you to stop lying. But ultimately, what the point I wanted to make was we are made by truth and for truth. And
this is just evidence. Yeah. In the next episode, we're going to start talking about how you can identify some more of those cues. So really going to help you become those human lie detectors, because that's a whole lot of fun, right?
It's so fun.
And so if you want to get that, make sure you like and subscribe so you can get that episode when it hits. Sound good?
All right, guys. We'll see you later.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for sticking with us in the Catholic Coaching Podcast. If you like what you heard,
please like and subscribe, and we'll see you again.